Hi everyone, it's Mariana, and today I'm going to be reviewing Crimson Peak, which is a new film from Guillermo del Toro, starring Mia Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, and Charlie Hunnam. This was one of my most anticipated movies of 2015, and I have to say I was not disappointed, so welcome to another one of these Mariana loved a movie that has mixed reviews type of videos. Let me clear something up for you. If you've seen the trailers, you may go into this movie thinking it's a horror film, which is what a lot of people did, and it's not. Stop. Forget the trailers, and if you haven't seen them, don't bother watching them because first of all, they're selling this film as something that it's not, and second of all, they're really freaking spoilery, so just this is why I don't watch trailers, and you shouldn't either. Crimson Peak is Del Toro's take on gothic romance. That's what this movie is. It's kind of like a sexy and occasionally scary Bronte novel in film form, and I feel like people need to know this before they go into watching this movie because yes, the movie should speak for itself, and it definitely does, but it's kind of complicated when you go in with a mindset of watching a horror ghost Halloween movie and you get a gothic romance. Not the same genre, and I feel like expectations are kind of working against this movie a little bit. Here's what the setup is here. We have Edith, played by Mia Wasikowska, who is the daughter of an American industrialist, and she is this smart, aspiring writer who wants to do things her way, and she starts falling for this mysterious newcomer, Thomas Sharp, played by Tom Hiddleston, and this guy is trying to get money for his invention. She sees him as a dreamer obsessed with his idea, and she really relates to that. So she eventually ends up in his old and creepy mansion that we see in the trailers and on the posters. It's kind of fallen apart, but it's also kind of beautiful. And his sister also lives there, who is clearly a nutcase, played by Jessica Chastain brilliantly. First of all, I loved the look of this film, and of course when you're dealing with a Del Toro film, it's going to look fucking gorgeous. And the house is just a character on its own. It is old and weird and haunting, and it has personality, and it has this red clay coming out of the walls and the floor, and it's just really strange, but also really mesmerizing. And then the design of the ghosts in this film is also really cool. I really love the way they were done, and you know, creature design, Del Toro. Do I need to say anything else? Then I loved the performances as well, and I thought the casting was spot on. Mia Wasikowska is perfect for Edith. She plays this kind of slightly naive but strong-willed girl who likes to do things her own way, and she wants to take charge of her circumstances, and when she needs to kick ass, she does so excellently. Tom Hiddleston is of course great. He is intense and mysterious and interesting, and his character is definitely one of the most interesting characters in this movie, and he is obviously a pleasure to look at. Jessica Chastain is definitely very interesting in this movie too, and she kind of has a pretty unusual role for her. I haven't seen her in anything like this, and this brings out a different side of her acting, which I absolutely loved, and she is definitely a little crazy in this. The only character that I wasn't the biggest fan of in Crimson Peak was Charlie Hunnam's character. He had a specific role to play, and then later on he kind of had a function of not going the way of what you would expect from a certain trope, but he honestly could have not been in this movie and it would have been just fine because it has nothing to do with his acting. He did what he could with what he was given, but I just didn't necessarily think his character was all that interesting or all that necessary. Something that I really enjoyed about Crimson Peak, aside from how gorgeous and artistic and beautiful it looks and all of the costumes and sets, is how self-aware this movie is and how much foreshadowing happens in the first about third of the movie, when the characters are not in the house yet, you kind of see a lot of what happens later on hinted at if you know what to look for. There's a lot of symbolism going on in this movie in general, but particularly in the first third, you get characters referring to things with their dialogue and kind of setting the tone for the rest of the film, which is really interesting. For example, Edith is writing her novel and there are ghosts in her novel, and she constantly has to explain that ghosts are a metaphor and the novel isn't really about ghosts, it's a novel with ghosts in it. There was actually a point where I questioned for a moment if everything that happens at the house in the second half of the movie is part of the novel that Edith is writing. Probably not, but there was a thought in my mind that that could be a thing, because you never really find out what she's writing. You just kind of know that it's a story with ghosts in it, and the ghosts are a metaphor for the past. And that was kind of cool, and I loved the way that echoed the second half of the movie. I also didn't expect Crimson Peak to be as violent and as sexy as it was, which was really, really cool. And some people may consider the violence to be a little bit over the top, but that kind of gives it that horror element that I guess the trailers decided to capitalize on, along with the ghosts, which just paints the picture beautifully. As you can tell, I really, really enjoyed this movie, and the only actual issue that I had with it had to do with Charlie Hunnam's character, or lack thereof, but in general, it doesn't really hurt the movie that much in my eyes, because it's not really about him. He's just kind of a character that could have been better, but really, it's not that big of a deal. I will absolutely be watching this movie again once it comes out on Blu-ray, because I will definitely be buying it. And I definitely think you need to go see it in theaters, not only because it looks fantastic, which it does, but also because it's a really cool story. It's the sexy and slightly scary gothic romance, which why wouldn't you want to see that? And it has a great cast, and we need to go support original movies. I always talk about that, but we really do, unless we want to be watching Jurassic World 5. You know how I feel about that. I will be giving this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did if you go see it. I know there are some mixed reviews going around right now, but I honestly think those have a lot to do with the way the marketing sells this movie and the way that the expectations are set up for people. So keep an open mind and go see this movie for what it is. So that's it for my review of Crimson Peak. Let me know if you guys have seen this movie already and what did you think of it, or if you're planning to see it, or if I've convinced you to see it. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!